Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. And today is a day that we don't normally do videos, but we decided to send out this video today just because the CNBC Investment Monthly Club meeting just went with Jim Cramer, and I decided that today what I wanted to do is to look at Jim run down all the individual stocks. So guys, like even the guys that are on my Patreon, they wanted to know what are the stocks that the club own. He will go through the stock one by one, and then I'll tell you what I think. But so without any further delay, let me listen to Jim Cramer and Jeff Marks from the CNBC Investment Club as Jim go through each and every one of the club stock individually. Please stay till the end, guys. This video would be amazing, and please comment and subscribe to the channel. So let's go listen to Jim Cramer as he run down all the individual stocks.
I feel terrific that the market's given us Emerson a chance to buy it. We wouldn't get it if all the S&P were down, because it wouldn't go down. Now let us get to the individual stocks in the club that you might have. Please remember, we do the homework. We teach you how to do the homework, but we don't expect you to own all the stocks, just the ones that you feel most comfortable with. Let's start with the remnants of the old FANG stocks. Boy, what an out-of-date acronym that I actually coined a decade ago. Stocks with names that are easily, let's say, when I started, it wasn't recognizable, but are now easily recognizable. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk Apple. I don't have a picture of my dog. I just have the screen. But if my wife calls, her picture comes up. Anyway, that's probably neither here nor there for you. She's probably not going to call. I am a student of the company Apple, and I know they are having a hard time divining both the manufacturing process and sales, especially in China, although not as much of import here, because Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile all use it to open accounts, and they're not accounted. They don't. When these analysts try to figure out how well Apple's doing, they don't count how T-Mobile's doing, how many accounts Verizon's open or AT&T. The myriad analysts who change their mind about the stocks every day, they don't have these numbers. I don't have them either, but at least I know the sales are good. Still, I believe the stock is headed lower, not higher. Yes, you heard me, lower. Because I believe, perhaps as early as the first week of January, that Apple may have to pre-announce a weak quarter. It's done that before. Do you know that I carry an Apple file down to my Squawk on the Street show? Ben Stoto, who's my partner in crime on Mad Money, and also my research for Squawk on the Street, he puts together just a specific Apple file every morning because it's important. I like to show the various new estimates the analysts make up so they can not just, we try to clarify things. But here's what you must ask yourself. Are you a good enough trader to sell Apple today and buy it back then? I know I'm not. So I say own it, don't trade it. And it is worth owning because of its amazing accoutrements, the Apple Store, and some of the greatest, most thoughtful, most pro-customer management in the world. I just had lunch with Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon, a couple of weeks ago. And the company has made a myriad of mistakes between COVID and the end of COVID. They have so many more people than they need, and I believe they will let many go after Christmas. They're having real competition from others to Amazon Web Services, serious competition even from Google. The company seems a lot more confused about its role, and I'm surprised at the big advertising hit it has taken. All that said, when it gets its employment count right and exits extraneous businesses like it is doing by right-sizing its hardware business, you are going to want to be in it as the numbers will be going higher, and that determines the direction of the stock, as well, this stock as well as all others. I have to tell you right now on Amazon, I am a little torn because when I see that we saw Netflix numbers being taken down again because of advertising, it does matter. I mean, tonight will be, we have Amazon football, and we don't want those advertising dollars to go down. So it's a new worry, and I'm focused on it. And it could lead to some number cuts before they make the changes in the table of employment. Alphabet. Let me tell you, when I speak to Alphabet people, I realize they've been victims of their own success. They didn't see the advertising nuclear winter coming in so many categories, particularly our friends at crypto, but only a few did. They still had plenty of things going for them, and because it's so arduous to get a job there, they hired 12,500 people during the last quarter. 12,500 people they probably didn't need. You see, it took months to go through the hiring process, so they were caught hiring at the worst moment. They didn't do, for instance, what Coinbase did. They hired them like on Monday and fired them like Wednesday. They have what I call class. They didn't do that, but they made a mistake. They hired too many people. Plus, they have way too much real estate. This is a company that needs to take tough action, or we may have to take tough action ourselves, because I just don't see the ad business coming back as it was. Not without crypto as a whole new source of advertising. Even though I can tell you from my old restaurants, the return on investment in their ads are just sensational, because you actually can see the blue dot where they come off the subway, come to your place. It's incredible. Yesterday, before the sell, the stock of Microsoft had worked its way to the 250s. And I asked Jeff if he thought we should sell some. He reminded me we sold some stock much higher and some right around here, and it's simply not big enough to worry about. I think the company could have a decent quarter, and it hasn't had to issue a warning this time about what is now the declining dollar. Remember that warning when the dollar's going higher? Solid, higher price to earnings multiple that I really like, but reliable, lukewarm in endorsement, I know, but less risky than others. People always ask me why I still hang on to Meta platforms, given that I have lost faith in Zuckerberg's leadership, as I outlined painfully and some would say pitifully on Squawk on the Street. Let me give you a couple reasons why. First, when pressed by me and others about having way too many people and an expense structure that was ludicrous, you know what he did? He took the axe to the outfit, firing 11% of the company. And you know what? I don't even think he's done. Yet he also has too much real estate. Second, he has assured me that he is spending a fraction of the time that he works at Meta on the actual metaverse, maybe 20%, not 80%, as is commonly thought. I also think here there's a good chance that Reels might get a boost from a TikTok ban because of the latter's Chinese bloodlines. Boy, would that ever help TikTok? Oh my God. Senate's doing it right now, perhaps banning government people. Hey, if government people can't use TikTok, what were government people doing with TikTok? Like watching TikTok during when they're supposed to be working for us? Like the IRS guys are watching TikTok. Thanks for nothing. All right, anyway, Mark's job will be very easy if TikTok's banned. It would also be gigantic for the fledgling Reels, which is actually a pretty good product. I also think that he can monetize WhatsApp, which is doing nothing now, except it could make a ton of money. As for the metaverse itself, it's a fun gimmick, not ready for prime time. Maybe it has to be flat on your screen, not wearing that silly stuff on like the headset. They got to trim the expenses there again. They got to catch a break on TikTok regulation. They got to monetize WhatsApp. And if they do all these things, then I think it's worth 30 to 50 points with minimal downside because it's performed so poorly. How about the other techs? We'll be going to be talking about AMD in a moment, but let me just mention that our semiconductors have been a huge disappointment to me. We simply didn't think there could be a glut of inventory so huge in the personal computer, server, and even hyperscaler space that it could cut so drastically into profitability for all our players, not to mention the cell phone guys. But that's what happened. I think the channel, which is the generic place that inventory goes to, is still too filled up. I don't think it's going to be used up until it may take to the end of January to get this channel reduced, which is why we have chosen not to rebuild these positions after some precious selling and I would say desultory repurchasing. And we certainly haven't repurchased as much as we sold, thank heavens. Sometimes we exercise a lot of patience, and it's worth it if the company is quality enough. And we've got some that we're doing that with. I mean, I think that's what we're doing with Cisco. Here's an inexpensive company that just reported one of its best quarters ever since Chuck, or let's just say, since Chuck Robbins took the helm. I know that CEO Robbins thought we got it right, we meaning the people in the club, because he watches what we write, when the company told us they had a better than expected order book. Most of the analysts are pretty jaded about this one, not me. I think it's finally Cisco's time. There is at last enough subscription revenue to give this once all hardware company some consistency and a higher PE multiple. How about Salesforce.com in the news constantly? I sincerely believe that it is bottoming right now, okay, because of a combination of good orders, a weaker dollar, massive expense cuts, and the prodding of Starboard, a hedge fund that can be very nice until they show you their fangs. When I was out with CEO Mark Benioff last week, he was still a little broken up by the departure of Brett Taylor, co-CEO, after Taylor had offered assurances he was staying post the Twitter win over Musk. When I asked about the other departures, though, he said something pretty compelling and newsworthy. They weren't all voluntary. Yeah, I mean, everyone's acting like everyone's leaving the ship. Hey, Mark's had it. He's had it. He wants nothing but performers. He wants to be the biggest and the best and the most profitable. He feels he has let people down who are shareholders. He was as fired up as I have ever seen him, and I have known him well since 2008. This Taylor thing was a blow. Taylor, he took on Elon Musk at Twitter and won. So who wouldn't want that guy as CEO? The lone winner against the greatest financial bully since John D. Rockefeller? I mean, the allure was just too great to get this guy. If you want to lament that Mark lost a second co-CEO, I say go right ahead. I like the solo CEO, a driven one that I have to tell you is more excited about the company than I can recall in many years. All right, talk Qualcomm. Quandary. Remember earlier I told you that I have to check my enthusiasm with the CEO after lunch or dinner? Well, how about 2 lunches and dinner? Holy cow. This rule is something that I thought of after I was smitten by Cristiano Amon, the delightful CEO of Qualcomm. I mean, this guy is great. He is a man of unrestrained enthusiasm about his chips and about the role he's playing in EVs. Got the big GM contract. It's a terrific contract, a great product. I'm glad for him. But he missed his numbers big time. We've been selling it down because he's about to lose Apple. Everybody does know that. That's well known. But he might also be losing a lot of China. Not well known. I do believe there is value here, so we probably won't sell the rest below 120. What a mistake to believe all of his hype, though. I should have known better. He, above all, is a tremendous salesperson for Qualcomm. You know what's the most difficult stock in our portfolio by far, though? It's not Qualcomm. It's NVIDIA. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I made this year was not selling all of our NVIDIA when it was valued like a mega cap over around $800 billion, a little more than a year ago. So let's tackle this head on. First, there was the rigor. I have no doubt that NVIDIA, and only NVIDIA, has the technology, the platform to build the metaverse on. That's what the old Facebook's using it on. And to make there be code that can mimic you perfectly. A big reason why they were blocked by our country to sell China their best chips. It wasn't just military. The Chinese could make a person look exactly like the person and have them say they love the regime if they hated the regime. You would never know it wasn't the person. So NVIDIA did a workaround that made it so it's not as powerful. And in any other business, you would not trust a workaround. And I'm in this business which says I can't trust the workaround. They are going to make less money than the street thinks. Plus, we are probably 4 weeks away from when the inventory glut on high-performance computers is starting to get cleaned out. What does that mean? As painful as it is, you have to own this one because there will be an inventory cleanout. So we wait. We see what happens. We have some oddball names I want to go through before we get to our questions. Let's start with the good ones. You hear so much about hydrogen energy these days, and everyone thinks of the specs as the way to play it, like Plug Power. Wrong. You play it with a company that actually knows industrial gases, including hydrogen. You play it with Linde. It's amazing to me that Linde, a much better company than competitor Air Products, still sells at 1 turn less or 1 multiple point less on next year's earnings. That's wrong. Linde's such a better company, and you do not need hydrogen to make this thing a huge 2023 winner, but it could happen. Starbucks and Wynn. These are both China opening plays. What's happening in China? I think it's anybody's guess, although it's hard to be handled worse than the way a disease by the way, that the Trump administration's chief trade leader told me over and over again was a disease that they created. Wow, if she created it, did a bad job, huh? Here's my take. There are so many places for Starbucks to build out in China, including like these tier 3 cities, which are like, a tier 3 city there is like the size of, I don't know, like Chicago, all right? Probably right. And they can, regardless of COVID, they can keep putting up stores, which they do. As for Wynn, you have the possibility of a takeover from Tillman Fertitta, who he's expressed interest in it with a passive stake that could always turn active. You have an earnings renaissance, so you got to keep a little on. Have to hold on to the tag ends. Now, I'm all over here. Jim Farley at Ford is convinced that the last quarter of 2023, you'll see him as the first legitimate rival to Tesla. By the way, if you own Tesla, it's not one of our stocks, but I would stop selling it here because I think Musk is going to have to stop selling it soon. Now, Farley's winning the awards. You see, he just got another one, Motor Trend Trucker year, and he's got software and the backup power to do so. By the way, I saw the Salesforce software for the new F-150. Man, any small business person would kill for it. Do you know that Generac's worried about the F-150 because you can, let's say you just plug in your whole house in if it's got a power failure. No one is going to buy an auto into a recession, so I'm not looking for the stock to return to the 20s in the 2023 period. But the score with which the stock is held right now seems wrong. I think high teens seem reasonable. Let's get to the really tough ones. Disney, quandary. I tried to work with Bob Chapek, the former CEO, even tried to understand the vision for the company, but ultimately came away with a brutal conclusion. He had no vision. He had to go. I helped push him out, and while I don't want to see anyone fired, I hate losing money. Iger's back. Iger wrecked the balance sheet. Good piece by Cowan today, admitting exactly what I've been saying for a while. That acquisition of 21st Century Fox was awful. $71 billion. I can't believe they did it. But he does know how to milk talent for what it is. And Chapek thought talent was just something you bought and sold. It's kind of buffoonery. Talent matters in the entertainment business. Shocker. This stock may be my favorite down and out stock for 2023 because Iger is quietly, viciously competitive. And if he doesn't have this stock to at least 125, where it was when he brought out Disney Plus, well, it would shock me. I think that's my goal for 2023 for this. I know Jeff tells me all the time, are we restricted? And he says yes, because of course I mentioned it this morning. But I would be itching. I'm telling you, I'd like to buy some right here, right now, if we weren't restricted. It's just so low. We saw some Halliburton last week when it spiked. I just have had it with oils opening up huge and then going down. And I said, let's try it. And it worked. The stock was immediately crushed after we sold it. I think Halliburton, though, is a multi-year joint. Why sell it at all? Because we have plenty. And that stock was bought low, and I wanted to get rid of it. We also have some high basis stock I'd like to get rid of. I like to trade around positions. Why keep your most expensive tranches when you can let some go and still be big in a stock? Well, that's where we are with Prince Hal, trying to figure out how much to sell when it goes up. And then if it ever went back to the low 30s, maybe buy it back. People hate retail right now. They think the world is going to trade down. If they're going to trade down, you know where they're going to go? They're going to go to Costco, like 100 million of us, has the lowest prices because it has a different model. It wants to sell you things at incredibly low margins because they can, and because you are a club member and you're a winner. Longtime holders like me always look forward to a special dividend right about now. I think one is coming soon. That was certainly hinted at on the call. If you only had to own one retailer, this would be the one. Now, before we get to the initiation that I'm talking about and the Q&A, let's tackle the most intractable situation I've come across, one I just mentioned, Bausch Health. I was smitten by Joe Papa, the man who fixed Valiant. I believed that there could be a successful spinoff of Bausch & Lomb, one that would go up in value. It was done at a terrible time. I believed that the lawsuit over its biggest drug, by Xifaxan, was just an abstraction, nothing to worry about. That was wrong. I believed in what I was told to believe by someone who had been 5 for 5 with me, 5 promises that he made about Valiant and 5 deliveries. Oh, this one he was dreadfully wrong on, the IPO of Bausch & Lomb, wrong about the power of the malcontent shareholders who didn't want the deal completed, and totally wrong about the patent lawsuit over Xifaxan, which, despite much reassuring, was a total disaster for us. As I mentioned, I've tried calling the company multiple times in advance of this call. I did get a terse email back yesterday, and the email said, and I want to take a look at it. The email basically said, hey, you know what? We're doing fine. And that's not exactly what I wanted to hear. And what's going to happen, frankly, well, I can't really tell you what's going to happen. I'll say this, though. It isn't a defense, what I've said. It just isn't. But it is life. A wise man once told me, sometimes you just get had. And when it comes to Bausch Health, I just got had. Let's just call it an influx position. I do feel bad about it. I'm not choked up about it. I feel bad about it. All right, with that, let's bring in Jeff Marks, Director of Portfolio Analysis, talk about our new initiation, which is being bought on the perfect day. Don't you think, Jeff?
I think so. We purposely started small, just with the understanding that it's had a nice run and the market is always volatile. So it came in, and so we added to our position.
Were we scared and frightened like everybody else? Were we shaking?
I don't think so. We view weakness as opportunities to buy more and scale into the position. So let's just get right into it. So Emerson Electric is a classic industrial that is reshuffling its portfolio in ways that reminds us a lot of the great work Honeywell CEO Darius Adamczyk accomplished just a few years ago. Ever since Lal Karsanbhai took over as CEO, Emerson has accelerated its portfolio transformation journey to create value for shareholders and become a pure play automation company. the company has been selling and divesting several non-core assets, bringing in roughly $18 billion of gross value to the company at attractive valuations. And at the same time, Emerson has made several acquisitions and investments too. In May, the company closed the combination of its industrial software business with Aspen Technology to create an global industrial software leader. Emerson owns about 55% of this publicly traded company. In July, it acquired an end-to-end software provider for the metals and mining industry. And last year, it completed two deals, one with a life science software provider and the other a leader in the control automation business for renewable power. In total, they've invested about $9 billion in intelligent automation technology and software. Now, the net of all this, why do we go talk about all this reshuffling? It's not just to put cash on the balance sheet. Emerson's swapping out some of its slower growing, lower gross profit and adjusted earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. That's EBITDA, not EBITDA, but EBITDA, right, for faster growing, more profitable businesses. It believes these strategic actions are, quote, creating a higher growth, cohesive portfolio focused on automation and will enable Emerson to enhance our end market diversification. So the company's doing really well. They just had their investor day not too long ago. They posted really strong fiscal 2022 year on a continuing operations basis. Underlying sales up about 7% year over year. Adjusted EBITDA segment margins expanded 230 basis points to 22.8%, and adjusted earnings per share grew 21% to $3.64. Now, for 2023, they're forecasting another strong year with the underlying sales up in the range of 6.5% to 8.5%, operating leverage in the mid-30s, adjusted earnings per share $4 to $4.15, and free cash flow conversion of about 100%. Now, those earnings are down year over year, but that's because the company just divested a lot of businesses, and those businesses were profitable. But management believes they can fill that gap by deploying about $8 billion of those divestiture proceeds into accretive deals. And also, management plans to buy back about $2 billion worth of shares next year, so that's going to help fill some of the dilution. Now, of course, there's a market debate right now, and that's going to be the achievability of industrial earnings next year if we do see an economic slowdown and maybe a possible recession. But Emerson has four big macro trends that stand out to help drive sustainable growth through the cycle. They are digital transformations, energy security and affordability, sustainability and decarbonization, and the fourth is nearshoring. Now, these four big themes are driving the company's three primary growth platforms. First is the energy transition, which Emerson views as a market growing double digits with a $12 billion total addressable market. Second, industrial software, a high single digit to low double digit growing market with $35 billion total addressable market. And third, priority discrete and hybrid market. What is that? An example of that would be factory automation for semiconductors, battery manufacturing, life sciences, and metals and mining too. So Emerson sees this market growing in the mid-single digits with a $97 billion TAM. And by the way, we talked a little, mentioned nearshoring, onshoring is an important topic. People bringing their supply chains from Asia back to the United States. China's a big business for them. It represents 12% of revenues, but this nearshoring, onshoring, not a big issue for them because 100% of the business that they do in China is for Chinese customers selling into the region. So not too much of an issue there. Now, on valuation, of course, the stock has had a nice run this year. We're not going to be no secret there, but it's actually still cheaper than one of its automation peers.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be Rockwell Automation. Bank of America highlighted this the other day. It's actually, they have very similar revenues. Emerson's actually $3 billion more. Emerson trades at a higher EBITDA margin, 26% versus 23%, yet it trades at a discount to Rockwell, a few turns of a discount. So we think that gap can narrow as Emerson continues on its portfolio transformation journey. Lastly, we always talk about dividends. It's a dividend aristocrat.
Yes, it is.
It's entering its 67th straight year of raising its dividend. The current yield's about 2.1%.
Yeah, I like the Darius Adamczyk analogy. Darius got rid of a lot of stuff that's residential because he saw residential slowing down. So what did Lal get rid of? He got rid of the incinerator,
yes,
which is a classic thing for a house. I love it. So I'm talking to the guy. I love him. And remember, like you told me, so listen, remember, it's Carson bias. You spent it. And Ben Stoto said, yeah, just remember, Carson, goodbye. You're like Wentz. Although Carson was activated last night. Now, this is really interesting. I said that my wife, Lisa, thinks the incinerator is polluted and that you should be doing compost. He said the same thing, of course. And he said, in the future, and I love this, he said, people are going to be composting. They're not going to be using an incinerator. I think he's dead right. And it's a good metaphor for what he's thinking about the world. When he digitizes, he did kind of like, it's a little like what Jensen Huang's doing at NVIDIA. He believes that if you can cut out waste, then you're doing your part for the environment. He's incredibly shareholder friendly. By the way, you should look at what we call a deck. That meeting that he had, the analyst meeting. It was so chock full of why I like the stock. You'll like it too. All right, let's get to my favorite part of the monthly meeting, and that's hearing directly from you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Hopefully, you enjoyed that. That was a lot of stock to go through, and I wanted to share a lot of the stocks with you. That was taken from the CNBC Investment Club monthly meeting, guys. And I do ask you to join the club. You should actually join the club. There's a lot of value in there. And if you can't join the club, then join my Patreon. It's only $5. Anyway, guys, so thank you for watching that. And we went through some stocks that I want to kind of talk a little bit more of some of the stocks that was discussed. And one of the stock was Apple. Apple still remain a great stock to buy, guys, at what? I think it's what, 135, if I'm thinking right, 135, and you could go buy it when the stock market open. I think you cannot trade around Apple. I think it is a great stock, and I would definitely talk about buying that stock. Let's just talk about the China opening and Win. Not a big fan of Win, but I love Starbucks. I think you could buy Starbucks. I think it will do really good with Starbucks, especially you want to buy Starbucks before China open than waiting until it open when the stock get high. Not a big fan of Win. I had Win in my portfolio. I decided to sell it, but I still own Starbucks. Let us talk about Facebook. I'm not a big fan of Facebook yet. There is so much moving parts with Facebook. It has not shown. It did a layoff and then the stock went up, but I still want to see more from Mark Zuckerberg. I still want to see more with Reels. I still want to see more with WhatsApp. But we know that Facebook is very good with their advertising for small business. So into the Facebook marketplace, I think that is where the stock going to do really, really good. Let us talk about Alphabet. I'm just running down a couple of stocks that I like. Alphabet is still good. I still think you could buy Alphabet. It's around the 98 mark. Once things open, Alphabet, which is Google, I mean, there is nothing much you could say about it. That's just a wonderful stock. So consider putting that in your portfolio. The club did buy Halliburton. I still love Coterra and PXD, which is Pioneer Natural Resources. So if you cannot afford it, I think Pioneer is going for like $219. Consider buying Coterra at $24 per share. So these are some stocks that you should consider adding in your portfolio right now. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching the video. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe and keep listening to us. We will be putting in a lot more information and giving you a lot more stocks. Anyway, see you on the next video.